Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, today I have Nomi Khedawala on the line, and he's a Senior Technical Program Manager over at Reddit, and he's also an angel investor. Nomi, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Adam, for having me.
All right, man. So a lot to talk about today. So I definitely want to get into your story and really how you made it to Silicon Valley and what you're doing over at Reddit. But I guess just to get us kicked off here, I see the title, so Senior Technical Program Manager. Like, how did you first get into technology, or when all that start for you?
Yeah, it started actually maybe from a young age, growing up in a rural town and growing up with my grandparents. Technology was always kind of something that was my domain in my family. And so from an early age, I think I just understood technology kind of intuitively. And so as I got older,
your parents were like, were you the kid that you're like, your parents, anytime there was anything, a laptop, a computer, a phone, they're like, I have Nomi do it, he'll fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you that guy?
Yeah, exactly. My family was tech support. So I understood it pretty early on. And when I was actually going to college, that's not what I was going to pursue. I was actually going to pursue a career in medicine, as most South Asian kids do going into college. And so when my friends around me started telling me about the process and like how long it would take for me to actually get to where I wanted to be in that field, I was like, yeah, maybe this isn't necessarily for me. And so I kind of pivoted into technology and started learning a bit of front end coding. And then
what was that pivot like? What was that pivot like? Because that's a little bit of a change, right? Like, what was that like for you? Were the parents okay with it? Were they like, no, what are you doing, man? Like,
no, I think my family was pretty supportive.
Oh, that's amazing.
My family,
that's wonderful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think my family's always been encouraging and it's always been pretty supportive as I was going through the process of figuring out what do I want to do with my life. And so
some families, it's not like that. It's like, didn't we say you're going to be a doctor?
Yeah, I know. I'm very privileged in that sense. So I definitely, it's not lost on me by any means.
Yeah, that's amazing. So continue. So now you pivot, you're going the tech route. What happens next?
Yeah, so I started contracting when I was still in Georgia with companies, small companies in Atlanta. But I kind of hit a ceiling when it came to coding. There was a point at which, without the foundations, it was very difficult to kind of figure out okay, if I want to accelerate my career, this is probably not the thing that I want to be doing. And one of my last contracts that I did before working full-time was with a close friend of mine who's a project manager. And so he started telling me more about the field, and I started exploring pathways of how could I get into project management, and ended up, getting a Scrum Master certification, and then started applying to jobs in California. And then I was fortunate that somebody at Twitter took a chance on me and had me move out to California and join the team, and that's kind of all in the rear view at this point.
Yeah. What was that like when you first, I'll tell you from my end, the first time I came to California, other than one quick little, I did an alternative spring break in San Francisco to volunteer one of my spring breaks. But other than that, I'd never even been to California when I first moved out here for a job originally. And that was kind of a leap. And I moved to Pasadena of all places. And I thought that was like normal LA. And I'm like, you mean there's no traffic or nothing? This is like a nice little small town. What does everybody always complain about it? Until I got a couple promotions and ended up on the west side. And the first time I was on the west side, I was like, oh my gosh, now I understand the madness that people were talking about. What was it like for you when I was coming from Michigan myself, for you coming from small town Georgia, what was it like for you making it out to California?
Yeah, I think surreal is probably the best word to sum it up, but just to give you some color to the full experience. I come from a town and from an area where a lot of the people that I went to school with still live there, have families there, and haven't really ventured or traveled. So growing up, other places in the U.S., especially a place like California, Silicon Valley, it was more of a fantasy than anything else. It wasn't something that seemed attainable, that seemed reachable. Growing up, I had never even gone west of Tennessee. And so, I hadn't really explored the U.S. as much. And so when I first came to do my interviews in California, it was almost like foreign land. It was almost like I came out of the country.
I agree with you on that. I felt kind of the same. So as you're starting to make your way in Silicon Valley, how did that happen for you?
Yeah, it was an adjustment, as most things are. But I think I was trying to figure out, where I come from a very conservative, culturally conservative family. And so, I was really trying to figure out, like, how does my cultural identity fit into Silicon Valley, fit into the corporate world? And so I think that adjustment took a couple of years probably. And so while I was at Twitter, I had a great experience there, but then was looking to move on and kind of transition from more of like an operational program manager into a more technical program manager. And thankfully was given the opportunity to do so at Snowflake and learned a lot there, led a pretty big program there. And then went on to Strava and Tinder, where I really was able to have the space and the leadership around me that supported my growth and also gave me the confidence to really figure out, okay, like, how do I show up authentically? How do I show up as myself? And what parts of myself do I bring to the workplace, and what parts are more for my personal life, especially when it came to identity and then cultural identity.
And I mean, obviously, just based on the names that you're naming, I mean, a lot of big companies you work for. What do you think, as you transition from, role to role and like company to company and these big companies, well-known companies like obviously X, what do you think's made you successful in this and able to kind of continue to progress, which has led you to, what you're doing at Reddit today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely been just the constant reminder that where I came from and where I am today. I mean, I think the way that I kind of view my career and how I've started to see a lot of my personal mission in my life is a lot of people where I come from don't even have the opportunity, half of the opportunities that I do.
Yeah.
And I've been given this opportunity, so I should do something with it. And I should find a way to give back. I should find a way to help others get the opportunities that I was seeking or the opportunities that were afforded to me. And so I think a lot of my progression is rooted in altruism and trying to help others attain, what I've had the privilege of also being able to achieve just through my own experiences and through my career.
Yeah, so remaining grateful and having perspective, it sounds like that's a big piece of what you're doing, huh? Like on your day-to-day.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to describe it. Is the gratitude and the perspective, I think, are really important driving factons of
I can relate to that, by the way. When I see it, like, Nomi, I see it and I'm like, I get to ask people questions for a living. I get to, like, be on a podcast and things like that. Like, that's insane. Like, when I think about it, like, I come from Michigan, and a lot of people that I knew growing up, they, worked in factories and they're automotive and they're big, on the manufacturing side of things. And that's tough work, picking up steel and doing it. I don't care if the robot's doing it or what's doing it, the repetitive nature, like just all the other things, checking into a factory, that's hard work. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's exactly easy to do the quantity of podcast episodes I do, but I'm still just asking questions and I'm getting to live out what I'm doing. So I'm pretty grateful for that. People ask me all the time, like, oh, well, how can you do that? Or how can you do this, that? I'm like, man, I could be doing a whole lot of other things that are a lot harder. No offense. So that keeps me going every morning. I'll tell you that. Perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I mean, I was so fortunate, that my family actually has a fast food business in the rural part of Georgia. And so I still grew up pretty fortunate. But I think, coming from immigrant family, South Asian family, I think they were very supportive, but it was mostly like they had invested their lives, in making sure that we were taken care of and making sure that they gave us a life that they could provide to the best of their abilities. And so I think for us, like, it gave us the privilege to kind of figure things out, but it was also like we didn't even know what the opportunities were that were in front of us. I think for a period of time, I was kind of coming to terms with, cool, like, I'm going to follow in my family's footsteps and, like, I'm going to take over the family business and I'm also going to be in rural Georgia and this is how my life is going to go. And I wasn't too excited about it, but, it's just coming from a place like that, not being exposed to different perspectives, different possibilities, it almost kind of seems surreal, like when you can venture out and you can be given the opportunities that are out there.
So looking at where we're at today, so we're in September 2025. What's next? What's next for you? I mean, I understand you're an angel investor too, so you're looking at other companies and other things like that you've been investing in. I mean, what's next for you? What's on the agenda? What's exciting you and what are you following today?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably a lot of the other guests that you've had on in the tech space, like, following AI pretty closely, but I'm a bit of a contrarian when it comes to the AI space, and so
I like that. Go for it. Speak that talk. Come on, Nomi.
Yeah, I mean, I think with how quickly technology has progressed and now with the advent of AI and how widely it's being applied, I think there's, at least like in the consumer space, it's my belief and hypothesis that there's a desire for more personalized, more low-tech experience that people are probably seeking. So I think I'm really looking for founders to invest in who are kind of taking technology and taking experiences back to the mid-2000s, 2010s, like not necessarily from a design perspective, but just how they're approaching technology and how they're approaching it with what kind of ethics are they approaching it with. And yeah, just looking to invest in founders who are ethically applying technology to the consumer space.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I'd say I was educated enough to be a real contrarian to it, but I will say that on our end, like we're definitely investing in with what we know we excel in. And we got, there's a tech stack and all stuff on the back end. And there's a lot of smart people that do what they do here. But in terms of what we feel our competitive advantage is really going and leaning further into community, because we've got such a large community that have been, pretty tight knit for many, many years now. So leaning further into community and how we can continue to add and give content to our community, and even in-person experiences we've kind of doubled down on the event side of what we do and giving people those moments and those memories that you can only get in person versus online. So we've got done, and especially when I think about things like brand affinity and like all those other things that come in line with when you can create a moment for somebody, because nothing against the online side of it and nothing against the AI or any of that. I mean, that all is incorporated in what we do, and it allows us to deliver on those in-person experiences and everything else just more efficiently. But I also think that like when I think about like competitive advantage, and I think a lot of companies will probably have to figure out what their version of that is to know, are they going to be like the leaders in that, or are they going to be like trying to chase everything, and then by the time they're done chasing everything, they're like, wait a minute, we spent a bunch of time and money and maybe we got off track on what we were actually great at,
Yeah.
So I think that but it's going to be fun to watch either way. I mean, everybody's going to have their own story with it, and everybody's going to be affected at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, AI definitely has its place, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
I think, especially in the business realm, there's a lot of applications for it. But I think, this is what I have seen with a lot of founders that I've come across, is that AI is not necessarily applicable to everything, right? Yep. Like it has its place and it has its purposes, it has its use cases, and to your point, like it has its competitive advantages. However, it's not something that, is kind of can be just applied to anything and everything today. And I think I see a lot of founders trying to force AI into a lot of what they're doing. And that I think just creates a lot of noise in the industry. So just want to see people who are approaching it more thoughtfully, more ethically, and more purposefully.
Yeah, it's great. Well, Nomi, it's been great having you on the show today and learning more about your work and really your journey from Georgia to Silicon Valley. I think it's awesome. I think it's great for sharing. I think it provides a lot of hope for other people that maybe want to do similar things. So I think it's awesome. Thank you for sharing. If people want to follow your work and continue to follow your journey, whether it's on social, LinkedIn, websites, whatever else, how do people connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best. I'm always looking at my messages, so feel free for anyone listening, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Always happy to chat.
Amazing. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes, so you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Nomi, thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Adam.